senators, Jubilee's Kipchumba Murkomen and CORD's Hassan Omar Hassan, two youthful senators on opposite sides of the political divide. It is time to ask the hard questions. It is time for Jeff Koinange Live.
Jeff Koinange Live in association.
And indeed, I urge you all to sit back for the next 60 minutes because it's going to be two young upcoming senators who could one day be president and deputy of this country. They're laughing, but we'll see in 10 years who will be. So, fire extinguisher in check. I've already briefed them about the House rules. If it gets out of control, we don't need to call anybody. We have our own baby in the house. On my extreme right, they say he could be one of the heir apparents to the deputy president. Young, brilliant, smart lawyer. He's only 34 years old, believe it or not. And yes, senator from Elgeyo Marakwet County, Kipchumba Murkomen. Right next to him, oh my, former vice chair of the Kenyan National Commission on Human Rights. This man was instrumental in writing a report back in 2008, which we will talk about. And yes, now 5 years later, he's a senator from Mombasa County, and he's 38 years old. The new generation of leadership right here on the bench tonight. Gentlemen, welcome to the new bench.
Thank you.
Kip, let me start with you because goodness gracious me, Kericho Senator Charles Kitter announces the last couple of days that he wants administrators in the president's government to be sacked because they implicated Deputy President William Ruto. Is he speaking for the Deputy President?
No, Senator Charles Kitter is a senator of Kericho County, so he has his own voice as a person, as a Kenyan, and Deputy President has people to speak for him in his office or himself.
But he's calling for these people to be fired. And already, PS for Internal Security has written to Ruto's lawyers, Karim Khan and company, and basically said, you know, what is all this about?
You know, to be fair to Charles, he didn't mention names. So I don't know the reason why the PS Iringo did that. Maybe he thought it is himself. And I want also to be fair to him because due process requires that everybody must be heard. For me, I think that also we must not sacrifice Iringo without really finding the truth. But the point is, if it is true that there is any Kenyan who caught witnesses to give false testimony, then really that's a crime under the ICC Act and our own act, and it's immoral. So it calls upon any person who has done such a thing, should not even belong to any government office, should belong to a jail. But at the moment, there are two misconceptions about this discussion. One, there are people who have already put in their mind that it is Iringo and the others. Two, you know, some people are taking tribal angle, that it has to be someone who comes from the tribe of the president or the neighborhood of the president. It could be someone from Elgeyo Marakwet County. It could be someone from Mombasa County. It could be from Turkana County. The point is, whoever did such a thing is immoral and illegal, and they do not belong to public office.
So where did these names come from, Kip? Where do these names, Iringo, Nancy Getao, and the rest of the gang, where do those names come from?
I think some of those names were mentioned by a witness at the ICC, but you know, we cannot take, if it is true that the witness was caught, yeah, and it is true also that he confessed to that allegation, we must go through the whole process of establishing whether that what the witness says is true before sacrificing Iringo or Nancy or whoever else. But when finally we have credible process that demonstrates, shows that these are the people who coach the witness honestly, then there's no point that they continue to public office.
Speaking of coaching witnesses, yeah. Hassan Omar Hassan, you've been alleged to have coached a witness or 20. Did you?
Jeff, I've told you on this bench before.
That's a different bench. This is a new bench. But I'm asking you again.
I've told you many a time that I am waiting. The facts will be testimony. And as we said, I had to copy something which Karim Khan said, which I think
Karim
I really
Khan
liked.
In response to Iringo tonight, right?
He said,
yes.
and I've held this position for a long time, and it's now been articulated by him. In due course, it will be, of course, be for the independent, impartial, and experienced judges of the ICC to determine the merit of the defense submissions and to evaluate the evidence presented by the parties appearing before it. It is not appropriate to engage in collateral litigation through the press. And I've said that about this process all along. If anybody has credible facts about coaching of witnesses by Hassan Omar Hassan or anybody else, the forum of the ICC is the best forum. And as my brother Murkomen has said, that it gives you an opportunity to contest those facts. And as far as I'm concerned, apart from the collateral trial within the press, parallel trial, I have not had any substantive allegation made against myself in any court process, in particular the ICC.
Long before you became a senator, there was talk that you might be a witness yourself at the ICC. Is that talk still there? Is that still a possibility?
Let me tell you this. If anybody decides to bring my name more or less in the same manner that the name has come up, I shall make that journey. Because I take allegations against myself extremely seriously. I had no interest in whatsoever way to be prejudicial to any person in this country.
But now that you're a senator from CORD ODM, will that make you impartial? Will you be objective you're a witness?
You see, I'm also a legal person from the human rights background, presumption of innocence. And if the allegations are made, there will be either in my person, it will not be an allegation against the CORD coalition or the ODM party or the Wiper party. I'm in the Wiper party. So therefore, there will be no allegations against the coalition in its entirety. So you shoot at me, I'll come and shoot back.
So you'll be ready?
I'll be ready.
Okay, and Kip, you want to say something?
Yeah, I just want to say that, we have always believed that Omar Hassan is the dean of the School of Coaching witnesses. So it's very good to hear from him that, he was not involved in any manner. But I don't think that's true. It could be true that he's not a witness, that he never coached witness. But I'm sure in the traffic of preparation of this witnesses, I'm sure Omar Hassan
wait a minute.
has had play a role on the way.
Let me pick up a point of what Kip is saying, because people always say, and critics across the board, experts, they say there was a collective thing about getting Ruto. There was always about let's get Ruto at all costs.
You know, when I used to draw my theory about how this whole ICC business started, immediately after the violence subsided and we convened Parliament for the first time, the 10th Parliament, I remember the first chorus of when Ruto made his entry into the House. The chorus that came from the PNU side at that point in time was to brand Ruto Madra, 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 if you remember those kinds of slogans. And I think then there was a fixation to ensure that certain people were either framed or fixed into whatever it was. So we create a cacophony or a pattern of chorus that is repeated so many times, and then we try to pursue it through very broad, processes. But I have to respond to the allegations.
The dean of coaches.
Murkomen has to realize that I do not work for Manchester. I never used to work for Manchester United. I was working for the Kenya National Commission on Human Rights. So that's said and done.
Maybe it's the same thing.
So what happens is when you work for an institution like KNCHR, inherently, at a time when institutions of government are weak, there were no witness protection programs, there were no witness interventions that secured, for the purposes of further investigations, the safety and security of certain witnesses. I have never denied the fact that I headed the program called the Witness Intervention Program at the KNCHR. That was part of my broad responsibility within the area of security sector reforms.
And what did that entail? Coaching?
That entailed, if Jeff Koinange, who is a witness in cause in a certain trial, or is a potential trial, comes to the commission and seeks the safety and security of the commission with respect to his own personal safety and security. We do not take statements in terms of the criminal proceedings. We were taking no statements. And at that point, the Witness Protection Unit, as it then were totally appraised of the functions that we were performing at that point. In fact, we sought tirelessly to transfer some of these witnesses to them because the unit at that time was not fully operational. As a Human Rights Commission and a commissioner then, who had a very principal obligation to the wide diversity of the Kenyan people. If somebody walks and we do what is called an assessment program, about the potential of risk that might be inflicted in you, then we make the normal engagement or ordinary intervention programs, including relocating you from the place of harm and transfer you to a place of safety.
Kip, do you agree with this? And also, do you think there was a concerted effort to go after your man?
Well, it is becoming now clear. I had the opportunity to sit for about a week to listen to the witnesses at The Hague. I realized that it was choreographed, planned with an end in it. The first of all, that it was planned. Everybody knows that the violence in this country was spontaneous. To organize, to look for all Kalenjin traditions and make them look like they were traditions made towards war. So you would see somebody was trying to craft. In fact, some of the witnesses were coached in such a way that they forgot that a distance like Machakos to Nairobi, they would make it look like it's between Uhuru Highway and Moi Avenue. So in the manner in which that was done, you realize that these are people who are told to memorize. Remember, one of the witnesses said, I don't remember. I mean, all the time, I don't remember. He says something September, and then by October, he can't remember, or she can't remember. So in real sense, you can now conclude that there was a scheme. And by the way, when the names came out, we were wondering why. How did someone find a balance of three people who were supporting ODM, three were supporting PNU?
Yes.
And then, how did you end up reducing that number?
Right.
And I've sung up to now, nobody had mentioned his name.
Good that you mentioned that, Kip, because I have here in front of me, I tell you, it took a long time to print this, the 300-page report of the Kenyan National Commission on Human Rights.
Yeah.
It was entitled "Back from the Precipice?" A human rights account
of the precipice.
Yeah, right. Back. Yeah, a human rights account of Kenya's post-2007 election violence. This was the first draft in July 2008. In this, and it's funny you say there were 6 specific names, one from one side and one from the other, but there are names in the first draft,
including Raila.
Including former Prime Minister Raila Odinga.
Yes.
I know that's where you were headed to.
That works. You're preempting me now. That were excluded in the second draft.
Yes.
Why was that? And the second draft is what Waki used to form his report that ended up in Ocampo's desk.
That draft.
This 300-page report.
That draft was also presented to the Waki Commission. Every commission has its own systems of evaluation. Every investigative authority has its own systems of evaluation. Funny, Raila's testimony, which was around the Madoa, that is the testimony that was captured there, has also been played out in the ICC. And when it was played out, instructively, it was the defense that actually said that comment was geared towards ensuring that the ODM party voted a three-piece suit. Right. And that evaluation has been made courtesy of the defense of William Ruto. And those were some of the analytical bits that went into analyzing part of all the information that had been collected and collated. And therefore then it passes through a believability test, a certain taste of scrutiny. But what then we do, we make all that information, including the database that is still at the KNCHR, available to any investigative agency. That database is protected, that the software and the ways that it is accessed is limited, and therefore anybody, including I think the defense with due fairness, if they wanted access to that database for the purposes of a fair trial and the presumption of innocence, then it must be made available to whichever party.
So do you think that those 6 people initially, it's down to 3, those 6, were they the right 6? The Ocampo 6?
I don't know what to think, my brother.
What was part of your report?
Our report presented a couple of names. And there were
20 names.
No. Our report did not present 20 names. It had 290 something names. 219.
Waki's narrowed it down to about 20.
You see, I do not know what basis or what evaluation or what evidence that Waki had. Like Waki had evidence that we never had from the NSIS that tended to corroborate some of the allegations that were made. You know, when we come to a human rights report, the threshold is far much less. A human rights report is not a conclusive allegation.
Kip, what do you think?
Well, I mean, personally, I first think that there's a little mistake that the deputy president and perhaps the president made at that time. they overtrusted in the Kenyan institutions, that they were going to, on their own way, understand the Kenyan situation, make a particular decision about the Kenyan situation, and believed that Kenya Human Rights Commission, for example, Kenya National Human Rights Commission was not going to buy these stories, for example, about circumcision of Kalenjin being a preparation for war. Things that really, if you are an African, you will understand. The campaign, and so forth. They did not put effort that I guess the former Prime Minister put, or they didn't put people within the commission that I think other people did, that were able to do away with some of the evidence that was glaringly, obviously wrong and was not possibly admissible. So by the time it's going to Waki Commission, this report has already received some level of credibility. And so to a great extent, I don't think it's right for Omar Hassan to tell us that he doesn't know, because, being one of the authors of the report, he should be telling us when they were doing this report, even if there were 200 people, does he think that Uhuru, Ruto, Arab Sang, Ali, Mudaura, Kosgei form part of the top 6?
Correct.
Based on their report?
That's what I asked him, and he's not answering.
Yeah.
No, I'm saying the evidence that we presented did not give any hierarchy of responsibility. Not the evidence, but the report that we presented.
Okay, but do you think there's anybody missing?
Let me tell you what I'm trying to get it clear to you. You present 219 names without any hierarchy, because you also recognize, if you read that report, your limitations, your inability to go beneath a certain surface of investigation because of the limitations of your capacity. What we do in human rights reporting is just to collect a level of evidence and allegations that are made broadly, and then submit them to the scrutiny of an investigative authority that has the capacity. NSIS, the CID, any other instrument that has the capacity to do it.
Kip, do you think there's some people missing?
So just to finish that. So therefore, there was no hierarchy that was presented.
Right.
Waki presented another 20, that's what we are told. And there was possibly there was a hierarchy, possibly there were not.
Yeah.
So whichever evaluation that was used, they know for a fact why they did. I know people who are listed with more allegations.
And they're not there.
Than that in the Kensington report that are not in the 6.
Yeah.
So I know that we listed them to have a far greater threshold of allegations than end up that 6.
Are these the right 3 or original 6?
By the way, I really think that there was a lot of focus on picking political leaders that perhaps may not have any link to the violence in the first place. And the way the witnesses are coming out, the evidence is coming out, it's becoming extremely, very clear that this violence was spontaneous, that people who actually killed each other, people who robbed each other, people who took each other's property, burned their houses, are actually relaxing somewhere in this country, and people, we have been looking for politicians to try to link them to the violence when they're actually not supposed to be linked to the violence. So for me, it's not who is missing in the list, it's whether those people who are put in the list are supposed to be in that list. Even if you were to add other politicians, I don't think it would be the real reason. The real reason is that we have picked people to carry the cross on behalf of those who violated other people's rights.
Who should be there that's not there?
I think that neighbor out there who was burning the other person's house, I think that person who took a panga or a gun or whatever weapon to kill his neighbor, I think those are the real people who should actually be tried, and they should be able to reconcile against each other. But when you look for scapegoats from political leadership, you try to coach people, remember, let me tell you, one of the reasons why, because this is the question, why was it that most of us who leadership of URP, including the deputy president, were blaming the other leadership of ODM for failing to really support them, was obvious. One is that initially they wrote a letter that we must go to ICC. 2, they wrote another letter that deferral should not be granted. 3, really, if we were together, we were campaigning together, we were in Nairobi here trying to fight for our rights together, how is it that if we were that close campaigning for you, but when it comes to the situation where I'm facing, we have never shown any kind of support, remorsefulness, and public support to show that you are becoming like an accomplice? So the blame for the leadership of ODM, which should have stuck together with the deputy president and Arab Sang and Kosgei, was basically that it was a sins of omission, but 2, writing letters to confirm that those people should go there.
They hung him out to dry, didn't they? They hung him out to dry.
Jeff, you've seen, whenever I come to shows, I do exactly what Karim Khan said today. it is not appropriate. Your opinion is just simply that.
Are you
Your
going to be
opinion.
coaching Karim
It is
Khan all
not
evening?
appropriate because he has created that aura, and he has given the confidence and inspired the discourse, which is the defense of William Ruto. So that said and done, you engage in a media trial. Yeah, try to present all kinds of theories and allegations. But the net benefit is, as he puts it in his concluding remarks, is to give ICC that space to make that independent judgment so that justice is done.
Hold on a second. We're going to give someone else the space because we've got to pay some bills. Okay. When we come back. Senator.
Yes, sir.
Is Jubilee kind of breaking at the seams? Looks like, this coalition, is it going to hold? I want to ask you that question. Kip, Cord.
What up?
Where are they?
There's no Cord anymore.
We're here and strong.
Omar.
We're here and strong.
Kipchumba Murkomen from Elgeyo-Marakwet County, Hassan Omar Hassan from Mombasa County. Two youthful senators talking the talk. Folks, sit back. Better yet, lean forward. Jeff Koinange Live is back in a moment. Welcome back to Jeff Koinange Live, here with Hassan Omar Hassan of Mombasa County and Kipchumba Murkomen of Elgeyo-Marakwet County. Two young senators, and Dan Mushiri said, folks, someone call Reki. I agree, because others are saying the dean of coaching. But listen, when you look at Jubilee now, I mean, obviously they have the majority in the MP in the House, majority in the Senate. Is it beginning to crack a little bit with these latest allegations by Charles Kiteo from Kericho?
I think now from an intellectual point of view,
yes.
I think rather than from a political point of view, I think Uhuru, the president, and the deputy president, William Ruto, are bound by destiny. The interests that unite them are far greater than that which separates them for the time being. And I think if they look at the bigger picture, even in terms of the completion of the trials or the deferral campaign or whatever else, I think the allegations by Charles Kiteo could hardly rock the boat. And look at it very carefully. The people the allegations have been made against are members of the Kibaki regime who appear to be a spillover. I think those are, if Uhuru has to decide between them and William Ruto, it will be William Ruto.
But Kip, at the same time, these allegations are serious.
Yeah.
And if your man, I keep calling him your man because you're the heir apparent.
man.
Yeah, exactly. When you speak, he speaks. When he speaks, you speak. Yeah.
That's not true, Jeff.
If he doesn't get his way, then there could be some friction there.
No, not at all. I mean, he doesn't even need to think about getting his way. Let me tell you something. The most intelligent statement that has been made by Omar Hassan is the statement that he has just made. A coalition of the nature of the Kenyan politics depends on the principles. And the relationship within the president and the deputy is far beyond these 5, 6, 7 individuals. And by the way, the truth is that if you go down to who are witnesses, who have been coaching, what is the ladder going down, it's all tribes. They come from different tribes in this country. It's not as presented by in social media as though it's only coming from the tribe of the president. It's not true. And second is to actually point out that those allegations are basically going to be burdens to be carried by individuals once they are proved to be true. So it has nothing to do with the coalition. In fact, sometimes we laugh over it. That is why, as Charles said, and I supported his position, it's a personal position. And actually it's the only moral position. If someone is anywhere within government, whether even is a secretary or is a deputy or a permanent secretary or a principal secretary or a cabinet secretary, as long as they have done such a thing, it's honorable that you exceed.
But let me ask you this. Yeah. What if it does turn out that most of the witnesses, and there's still like, 20-something left?
Well, maybe 10 or so.
Okay. Yeah. What if most of them turn out to be former PNU?
Oh, they have confessed in court that, I used to be a PNU supporter or whatever. There is no PNU in this government. You know, people, the way people are talking about, we have only major 2 coalition partners, 3 or 4 coalition partners in Jubilee, led by TNA and URP. Really, there is no PNU anywhere. So if
but
PNU is there,
former PNU.
Yeah, those are parties which have already been buried. Yeah, I'm sorry for the PNU supporters.
So you're not
but
worried?
The PNU is not even in
there
parliament.
Won't be any friction?
No, not at all. Not at all. And in fact, let me say this. Even when we were going to the case, we knew that the only person who would complain against an ODM person at that time was going to be a PNU and vice versa. So really, it would have been naive to imagine that there was an ODM person who was complaining against ODM person. Yeah.
Can we switch gears?
Absolutely.
Oh, wait. Before we switch gears, one more thing. What if in the end, because it looks like Jubilee is speaking from 2 different sides of its mouth, if you will.
Yeah.
Ruto's defense team wants to go the whole hog with the ICC.
Absolutely.
The president's team, they don't want the man to show up at all in The Hague.
Yeah.
In fact, they want this UN deferment to happen, which it looks like it's been defeated already, right? It looks like UN Security Council didn't get the votes they wanted, right?
Yeah.
So
it's looking bleak.
It's looking very bleak, and the president's side may revert to extreme measures.
Yeah.
You guys want to go the whole hog. What is that about?
Basically, I think both the president and the deputy are speaking one language in terms of they want to see the case go through and basically to ensure that these false witnesses are actually proved wrong at The Hague, inside the court. The only difference is that the president does not want to appear there. That's why they are asking for excusal. The deputy president has asked also for excusal, but he doesn't mind if he's not excused. He wants a program that is basically would assist him. Really, even the deputy president is on record saying he would be very happy to see that his friend and the president should actually be excused because of that position of the presidency. And both of them, it would be nice if they are excused, but because the case is almost coming to an end, it would be good to go through it. The president would like to see it go on, but him to continue governing here in the country. The argument that the president will not go is a request by the supporters of the president that should he not be granted the excusal, that he should not go. But that we have not crossed that bridge.
Hassan Omar, you're smiling. You're smiling at this. Because you want him to go. You want him to fry, don't you?
Because what is happening is the right person is discussing the very intricate positioning of the Jubilee coalition. So I'm smiling because I'm in concurrence to that extent, where he's also making very intelligent, very intelligent.
Now you're friends again.
Very intelligent analysis.
But you want the president to show up, don't you?
You know what we're all anxious about is the kind of steps that the president will take progressively with respect to the ICC cases. I think as a coalition, we have made our position very clear as the CORD coalition that we do not mind engaging in the formal processes, but it must be a formal, structured process in terms of moving forward. I recall the statement that was read by G. Morengo a couple of weeks ago. The truth is, we are trying to avert a potential crisis for this country.
That's why you were against the United Nations Security Council deferment, aren't you?
The position of the CORD coalition is that we need to go the full throttle. And I think it has been quite exciting to see the deputy president, because the few times I have sat with the deputy president, he totally believes in his innocence, and he has demonstrably gone there to fight for his innocence. And I will not make my my analysis to the level of evidence. But time and again, when you go into little talks about what we think about the evidence, some of us would say witness so and so was quite weak. In that regard. So I think partly when you start, your defense team starts to gather the confidence that this is a case we can demolish, then you want to conclude it, wrap it up with, because what does a deferral mean? Put it off for 1 year. Then you seek another deferral, put it off for another year. It simply doesn't go away. You simply procrastinate the problem.
Yeah.
So why don't you face it and annihilate the problem?
Kip, you're both lawyers.
Absolutely.
What if at the end of the day, one of these individuals goes down? And it's your man.
Well,
that's a scenario you have to contemplate.
Yeah.
What if it happens?
Well, are you asking for legal implications?
Yes.
Well,
and then political down the rift.
Yeah, no, I think I would rather not contemplate something that has not happened yet, particularly because we have many steps legally to be able to reach there. And I don't think the way I'm seeing what's happening, I don't think we'll cross there.
You don't think so?
I like not to imagine that such a scenario was going to happen.
What if it's the president?
Jeff, there is what we call scenario building. It is usually done in little caucuses. And
I'm sure you guys have done that.
Scenario building has been done,
Yes.
but unfortunately, it's never in our premise to wish anybody misfortune, or even to start imagining the fall of any individual.
It's unculturally.
I think within the African context,
Yes.
which we still strongly are despite our youthful age, is to allow time to demonstrate what will occur at that point in time. And I do think whichever way you look at it, if that were to happen, it will be a crisis for the country across the board.
Yeah.
And it is unfortunate to imagine that. Yeah. So what I think we will do is to stay that issue and allow the defenses to fight as hard as they want. And I have been myself excited about the idea of Karim Khan. That's why I've quoted him severally, not only today, but in the past, for reasons that I have felt that he's notwithstanding what he does as the threshold of evidence, he's an extraordinarily intimidating, vicious lawyer. And anybody who goes there thinking that he can make some flimsy allegations, will be taken down. And I said, if I was to go into the legal practice, notwithstanding, those are some of the persons we will flag out, including Murkomen agreed with me, including in the break, people like Ahmed Nasir. They punch really hard and stand ground. And I think that's partly also helps the client to gather the confidence and capital to go forward.
Absolutely, the grand mullah.
The only difference between me and Omar is that it looks like he had a leakage of what was going to happen. That's why he came with what we used to call a Mwakenya. Because every answer that Omar Hassan has given is Karim Khan.
It's because what I told you during the break, Karim Khan is Ruto's lawyer, you're not.
Guys, can you switch gears real quick and talk about your colleagues in the other house? Has that parliament gone rogue? Are they crazy?
Jeff, there's a standing order. Is it 98? Which says that you cannot discuss the other house.
No.
Jeff, to be very honest,
yes.
There are certain things that have, from the beginning of this parliament, that have dismayed us. We have been very unhappy with some of the things that have happened in the National Assembly, particularly when it comes to the respect of other institutions, including the Senate itself. I don't agree with our Speaker, and with all due respect,
Speaker of the
National Assembly.
Yeah.
I'm saying our Speaker because it's part of our leadership in Jubilee, and I'm saying I don't agree with him, particularly the statement that he said courts can just say what they want to say.
Yeah.
And let me say this, Jeff. And I just quoting PLO Lumumba, I've just watched him say that really, if governors started saying whatever decision court has made, that's their opinion. Cabinet secretaries say the same. There will be anarchy in this country, and particularly because he was a former magistrate. So I think our attitude,
the mystery deepens.
Yes.
Yeah. But real quick,
attitude.
Speaking of governors, you guys want that title removed, don't you?
We'll come to that. We'll come to that.
We'll come to that. Okay, go ahead.
Yeah. But basically, I'm just saying the National Assembly can do better in terms of respect.
The media bill, why didn't it come to you? Why didn't it come to you?
One of the things is, I think right now we have a Supreme Court opinion, which is an authoritative opinion, which is binding in terms of the process and procedures. I think Muturi must try to mentor leadership. He must try to act with reasonableness and rationale. This is a country that has evolved over years to governance and a governance culture. He cannot come and derode all that. And some of the comments he makes in public platforms, he's only protected when he's in the floor of the House. So he's our Speaker, so he's any member. So I think he should be very careful. It's the fact that we continue to watch him make these pronouncements that are careless. It's not fear on our part. We've also walked a path that is extremely challenging. All we care about as a Senate is the interest of this country. That's why when we go to the House, to the Supreme Court, we ask them not to make declaratory orders to declare the bill unconstitutional or the act, because we do not want to plunge this country into a crisis. That's the fact that we think more about the country doesn't exonerate him from the responsibility to think for the country.
The fact that the fact that the president has tossed the media bill back to the National Assembly. What does that say?
He's telling them to be more reasonable, because also they paint an image of his government. And as Murkomen rightly said, unfortunately, he's ultimately a Jubilee speaker in terms of the proposer and the kinds of processes that went there. So I think that leadership has a responsibility to this presidency, which is digital, which is young, to give it a perception that it is living in the digital age in its software, not just in terms of the hardware, the fact that they look digital.
As a matter of fact, I believe that media bill should have come to Senate.
Absolutely.
Why didn't it come to Senate?
And basically because the law says in Article 110 of the Constitution that the two speakers have to sit together and make a decision which bill goes to National Assembly, which goes to Senate. And the Speaker of National Assembly never created the opportunity for the two of them to talk together. I still strongly think that the other line we will follow, even after the president's return, is that it must follow the necessary procedure of the two speakers sitting together, and that bill should come to Senate, because the creation of two chambers in any parliament all over the world is that so that one house can see certain things. Because that procedure, if this bill was in Senate, the media owners and the media industry would have come to Senate. By the time it's going back to National Assembly, the issues they were raising would have been addressed. Look at marriage bill. You want to tell me that marriage bill doesn't concern county? I mean, if for the least even of the arguments, the Constitution provides the social functions are county functions. Marriage is a social, as long as contractual, it's also social. It's also cultural. Yeah. It is also, even for the minimum, a senator and a governor gets married. So really, it affects counties.
Correct.
So in essence, these bills must be processed through the necessary procedures. And let us appreciate one thing. We can have our stories about Jubilee Court, another political whatever. But leadership is showing an example, having interests of the country, thinking beyond today. I'll ask the members of National Assembly and us in Senate that we need to think of our country in 20, in 30 years, in 40 years, not just now.
Yeah, and look, they get to do most of the work, this National Assembly, right? What work have you guys done? What work are you guys doing?
Because the fallacy that was created is what the Supreme Court said in its broad decision, that it is not true that there is any bill that the Senate does not speak to.
Yeah.
At the very onset, when the two speakers must meet to decide whether it goes to the Senate or goes to both chambers or to the National Assembly, it is in that regard that the Senate has spoken to that bill through the Speaker, even if we say it is not a bill that necessarily or of essence must come to the Senate or concerns counties. And what we have done so far, first and foremost, the Supreme Court decision is an extremely important decision in terms of locating the proper place of Senate in legislative agenda. What has happened is to be disarmed from that legislative framework. But we are doing a lot of work. We are visiting our counties. We are helping in creating structures of the new devolution structures. Even as I told you, I came in this evening, and we'll be leaving early tomorrow morning because we are listening to appeals from counties in terms of the transfer funced. We met Governor Joho today.
So you guys flew in just for the bench?
Yes.
We met Governor Joho today. You're an important guy. And we have a friend who's also quite not well. So I thought it was an opportunity to come and have a visit him.
Sure. Kip, let's go back to that point I asked earlier on about governors. You guys want the title removed, His Excellency.
There's a lot of confusion about positions in this country. I went for one meeting and the governor, the president, the deputy, and the governors were there. Nobody called them Your Excellency. And they didn't want anyone to call. In fact, one governor told one of the MC, don't call us Your Excellency. You know the president, the deputy is here. It means that basically this is a title that they like to use it when the two are absent.
Right.
So
to avoid that confusion.
That's when he was getting inaugurated as the heir apparent.
Oh, yes.
And to avoid that confusion, it's important that we look for titles that really avoids confusion. Let's have the president, deputy be Your Excellency. Let the senator be called senator. It's enough.
Yeah.
We'll let the other person be called governor. That's enough. Let the other person be called honorable member of National Assembly and so forth. But there is an obsession in this country about titles and positions and flags and vehicles that actually clouds our commitment to be humble and responsible servants to the people. Some of these titles, I went to a function the other day and an old man said, Your Holiness, Highness, Excellency, Governor. And I was like, why should this man struggle this much to almost bite their tongue?
Holiness, Highness,
Excellency, Governor.
That's what
and actually one of them said, Your Excellency, the President of this county. The county where we work.
Correct.
So I think we need to avoid and to demystify this obsession with titles so that we focus on servant leadership.
Let me read a couple of tweets before we go to the break, gentlemen. Kinoti, he says, lower house is becoming rogue, challenges we citizenry are not taking this issue with the weight it deserves. You agree?
It's true.
Yes.
It's because, I mean, the members of public also do not understand this Article 110 thing about bills going to the other house and so forth and so forth. But also, I sometimes think because the population in the National Assembly is so huge that sometimes when you get the attention and opportunity to speak, you say something explosive so that you'll be remembered for it.
Because, it's because for us as a Senate, we have decided that we will not be adversarial.
Yes.
We acknowledge that we have a responsibility to the Kenyan people. If our speaker became a Muturi, there will be chaos in this country. Or if we decided to do the things that we that are being done of essence in the
Can he be
Assembly.
checked in any way? Can Muturi be checked?
I can tell you for a fact.
Yeah.
If he does attempt to go against the grain of the ruling of the Supreme Court, he will find himself in a very adverse position.
Actually,
It is not a joke to violate the Constitution repeatedly and get away with it.
the first person to check any of our senators, any of our speakers, will be the president, because he will be putting the president in an awkward position. Can you imagine another situation like the Division of Revenue situation, where a bill is before the president
He will return
and
it.
Senate is shouting, saying don't sign, and the National Assembly is saying sign? I mean, that kind of chaos is not necessary.
Yeah.
In fact, I have always opined that the difference between our National Assembly and Senate leadership is actually costing Jubilee government when it's not necessarily the executive which are occasioning this problem.
Yeah, maybe he will self-implode. Gentlemen, I'll read a couple more. These are nice ones, by the way. I don't know why people are being so nice to you guys. Look at this. Joseph Omuto Eululo. He says, I'm proud of Murkomen. He's witty, smart, and factual. Bad thing is, he's too partisan. And that cancels everything, all right? Dennis Guari says, the relaxed mind speak of Hassan Omar proves a Mwakenya. What does that mean?
No, it's just
That I know what I'm going. I know what I'm going to talk about.
Gentlemen, let's take a break. Come back.
No, that he came with.
Yeah, the paper. Yeah. Inside the
that's
story.
what's called
Inside
I'm a very relaxed person. I don't breathe under pressure.
Senator.
Yes.
No high excellency, holiness.
No.
Absolutely.
By the way,
Senator.
you don't call yourself senator. I don't introduce myself as Senator Kipchumba Murkomen. It's people who call me senator. I'm Kipchumba Murkomen.
And
Why the obsession with this
In fact,
title?
even when I sign very official documents,
yeah.
I leave the word senator. I've seen people try to re-enter it.
Nice.
Hang-ups to titles and prestige
Yeah.
and the pomp. That's why, unfortunately, you confuse a Kenyan person. He's not sure whether you are His Holiness, His Highness, or His Excellency. You lord over them.
On that note, we're going to take another break. When we come back, the way forward, what's going to happen in the coming months and years? Could these two be a ticket, say in 9 years? Jeff Koinange live. Keep your tweets coming at Koinange Jeff. SMS number 22155. Oh my. Or as the people in Nyeri were telling me, wamai. Back in a moment. Welcome back to Jeff Koinange Live with two lively senators, and they are not holinesses or highnesses or whatever they call that stuff, right? Excellencies, yeah. Kipchumba Murkomen of Elgeyo Marakwet County, Hassan Omar Hassan of Mombasa County. Guys, a quick tweet here. Codida says the problem with the National Assembly is lack of proper leadership, wrong choice of speaker. Please call Marende back. I missed that guy, don't you? He was a good speaker.
Absolutely, but you see, when you are in the kind of context that you're in, it's difficult. Those are popular aspirations. I've had them abundantly. What I think that might mean is that Muturi needs to change way. He needs to change tact.
Oh, we need a Marende type.
Absolutely.
That, leaders come for a particular season for a particular reason, and I think it's for Speaker Muturi to read the times, to rise to the occasion, to make, he may not be speaker again. It's very important that he leaves a legacy. Marende did not know that he will not be speaker again this particular period, but he left his own legacy. So it's important for everybody to do the best in whatever period.
A lot of people agree with you. Ledama Olekina, he says the biggest letdown to the Jubilee government is the Speaker of the National Assembly, Muturi. He is doing UK a disservice.
You know, Muturi is my friend. So it's important also to point out that, we talk. But that is why you tell a friend the truth. And it's important. I've told him from the beginning that it's important that the two houses work together, because you will not only cost. You remember the Muturi and our speaker, both of them ran for offices. They are part of the Jubilee leadership, and therefore they must appreciate the ultimate objective of the coalition, that we want to be in this leadership for the next 50 years or so. So he cannot just put roadblocks on the way. Both of them has to find a middle ground.
Kip, here's one for you. Ondari Mogeni, he says, Kipchumba says he does not call himself senator, yet his Twitter handle reads Senator Murkomen.
Because someone else called himself Kipchumba Murkomen on Twitter.
Yeah.
So I just needed to distinguish between myself and the other whatever.
Stalkers,
but I don't walk around telling people, do you know I'm a senator? Do you know people?
Good point.
I don't do that.
Good point.
Yeah.
Bet Jackson Jesse says, nice show, keep up the soberness. You guys, you're actually friends, even though you're from opposite sides of the divide.
That's Jeff. This is the civility we have in the Senate. We realize that our competition is based on ideas. That's why those forums were created. That sometimes there's concurrence, sometimes there's divergence. But that does not make us an enemy of a country. That's I think senators orchestrating and demonstrating what democratic competition is all about.
And you guys are in your 30s. You're 34, Kip.
Yeah.
You're 38.
Yes.
And you're demonstrating more maturity than these, whatever they are, in that house.
No, we must be very honest. There are other members of National Assembly who are very mature, or age mates, younger than us.
Sure.
And it's important that age is not misused. And by the way, usually we say, this guy is not known in Mombasa as Omar Hassan. He's known as Sarai. So we usually tell each other.
What does that mean?
He has a name called Sarai.
My son,
Sarai.
my family name.
So if you go to Mombasa, you will hear Sarai. You'll not hear Omar Hassan. But we always say that we were elected when we were young, but we were not elected by youth. We were elected by everybody. And although he's not a Christian, I like reminding him what Paul told Timothy, that in the Bible, that let no one despise your youth. You must always be an example to the old, to the young, to your sister, to your brothers.
Yeah.
So it's important for all of us to rise to the occasion and be a good example to also those who are aspiring leaders. I would hate in 2017 people to say we are not going to vote for other young leaders because Sarai and Murkomen let down the leadership of
Good point.
of
Good
the
point.
future.
Speaking of leadership,
Yeah.
would you two, are you going to run? And if you do, who'll be president, who'll be deputy? We're talking 22, because 17 doesn't look like...
Even 22 doesn't look like anything. But the truth is that... The truth is that every small child, you meet them somewhere, they'll tell you, I want to be president one day. But for me, since, I am focused on delivering on the promises that I gave the people of Elgeyo Marakwet and Kenya for the 5 years. Whatever happens after that is not...
Do you want to be president, kid?
I don't know now. I'm just thinking about being senator.
You see? Someone else is listening. He was telling me, hey, man, wait your turn. Do you want to be president?
They say in political dynamic, you keep your cards close to your chest. You see, when you aspire for, when you do these things, some of us believe that we've been propelled by a passion and a gentle commitment to do good. And Kenyans and the people generally, an extremely critical lot of people, they know who is sincere, they know who's not. And when that time comes and people ask Kipchumba Murkomen to take a step forward and Hassan Omar to take a step closer to him, I think if that is the destiny of that time, we will never say no to those challenges.
Would you do it together?
Would
you do it together?
Why not? If that was the
congruence on
calling.
many issues.
But the point is this, Jeff. There is an obsession that you must be in a particular office to do something. I always like an example of Martin Luther King Jr. A man who never held any elective political office. But if you go to Washington, D.C., he has a memorial, a sandwich between memorials of President Jefferson, you have Washington, you have Lincoln, and then a black man who was just a church leader. He's somewhere in between there, and he never held any political office.
Okay.
So it's important for Kenyans also to appreciate that you don't have to wait to be in office to make a difference.
Okay, Louisa Mwamba says, Jeff should get rid of the fire extinguisher. You really don't need it for composed people like Hassan Omar Hassan. All right, man, grab it. Go. There we go. We're having an intellectual conversation. Nice catch, Nick.
I'll carry it home. Because if you don't use it, you never know. These days, we have a lot of reasons we might need to extinguish other fires. or should we take it closer to Parliament? Yes.
Okay, but going forward, I'm going to come back to this coalition, or rather Jubilee.
Yes.
Jubilee seems to be at a friction point. There is a bit of friction. Let's not kid ourselves, Kip. There's a bit of friction going on. Can that be ironed out real quick moving forward?
Maybe
before Ruto goes back to The Hague.
No, I don't think politically between us and political leadership. No, zero. There's no friction. Maybe because of our point of view of how to treat certain issues, and it's always normal. But I've not seen a friction. Actually, the time we had a friction is when we were competing with on the issue of referendum. That's the time we had issues. I mean, Murkomen was on this side with Kindiki saying that we go for referendum, the president on the other side, and the reason was because of the leadership of National Assembly and Senate. But once we sorted that, I've not seen something, Jeff, that actually I could pin down and say this is something that brings a difference between. It's just imaginations of our competitors who would like to look for a crack, but there is none. Yeah. I mean, fictitious arguments.
You're saying that Jeff is a competitor, but not that said and done because he's the one making that question.
Yeah.
But the truth is, the reason why partly these coalitions are not like previous coalitions is because they are governed by law.
Yes.
The law has stipulated the terms of engagement and the rules of engagement.
Okay, let's come back to CORD then. CORD seems non-existent.
There is no CORD. There is no CORD. The only existing entity which semblance of an opposition is ODM. There's no CORD.
Just because people's styles are different. Maybe Kalonzo is not the guy who goes to every kind of rally. Maybe Raila is a political animal who loves a different kind of strategy. But the truth is, the CORD coalition is a visible coalition. It has been authoritative in its positioning, and therefore it is for you to imagine that it does not exist.
Not so visible. Look, who is visible? Look at Johnston Muthama.
Yeah.
What is wrong with
He's saying that his security has been removed and now he can't travel. He can't move outside his homestead.
That is a personal issue, and we have taken it as a coalition to ensure that the safety and security of Johnston Muthama is guaranteed. But even when you look at, for instance, there is debate within the coalition. if you're looking at, for instance, the most visible governor is a CORD governor from Wiper, and he has the grandeur to invite the president and the deputy president at the presence of the party leader to the launch.
But his senator is unhappy about it.
The truth, Jeff.
And listen, even if his senator is unhappy, that's a senator's position. If you looked at my tweets as this whole process was going on, I was in South Africa. Many of us saw and embraced the vision of Governor Mutua.
Yes.
So I think it is not right, to simply be very choreographed. Whenever there are bills in Parliament or both houses, the CORD will have positions, and sometimes those positions are in congruence, and sometimes they're in divergence. So therefore, I think you have to appreciate that the role of opposition in democratic spaces is guaranteed, and we perform it to the best of our ability.
Maybe someone should cut the umbilical cord. Pardon the pun. Go ahead.
But I want you, Jeff, in your own future program, in your future program,
yes,
and in your own time, to investigate the arguments and the allegations that during the signing of CORD, there was an agreement that it was the last time for the former Prime Minister to run, and that in the next election they were going to support Kalonzo Musyoka.
Mm-hmm.
But there seems to be a change of mind from the people who had promised Kalonzo to support him, and I really don't think.
You see, the same way he talked about people and their opponents making some kind of infantile, imaginations or machinations.
Yeah.
I think he's doing it more than we are doing.
But let me play devil's advocate and say that maybe there was an MOU between Uhuru and Ruto that said Uhuru would run one term and then Ruto would take over in 17.
Though there was one with Mudavadi.
That is a good question. That's a good question because you're speaking to the person who drafted the agreement.
Did you draft the one?
Yes.
Did you draft
yes,
the one
and there was
Mudavadi?
none. And there was none.
And there was now what?
Yes, there was no provision of that kind.
You sure?
Yeah, I'm
You're
very
saying
sure.
it right here on this
By
page.
the way, let me tell you something, Jeff. The thing that holds Jubilee coalition is not the agreement.
What is it?
It is the friendship and the trust between the president and the deputy. It's not held by an agreement.
Yeah.
Is that going to last?
It will.
But
The
Jeff,
goal 10 years?
You can take it to the bank.
These agreements are
I've given
deposited
you
within the
a
register of
guarantee.
political parties. these agreements are deposited within the registrar of political parties.
Right.
He, on one side, my brother Murkomen says he drafted the agreement, he is totally conscious of it. The only instrument that is binding within the framework of the law is the one that is not deposited where Mudavadi deposited his with Uhuru. You deposited with the register of political parties, that's when it takes the force of law. So therefore, as far as we're concerned, there exists only one agreement that is at the register of political
but
parties.
Kip has admitted,
exactly.
that he drafted that one.
Yeah.
Is there one within
And by the way, all coalition agreements are only for 5 years. So it is not for post 5 years.
Right.
So what I said,
It's renewable.
that's why I said investigating these allegations were not based on the agreement. No, just there's the political promises you give each other outside the formal agreements.
You didn't answer my question. Is there an agreement within CORD that Kalonzo will be the flag bearer in 17?
To my best of belief and knowledge, there is no such agreement. And we went into the coalition in good faith. The vice president, who was the running mate to the prime minister, gave his heart out because he wanted to make it happen. So I think what we did is we took our political chances, like any other group of politicians takes their political chances. And what we are doing now, I can confirm, is that on the 28th, at least the Wiper Party is meeting to strengthen the Wiper Party with a view to strengthening the broader CORD coalition by the 20th of this month.
Richie Rich, he says, if the two were to run on one ticket, I would vote for them pop. So you see, you're starting something here, man. Just say you started right here on the bench.
But so just to conclude that point, I think every party, once it loses an election, and it happens everywhere in the world, it calls on it to reorganize itself so that it builds an alternative agenda with respect to its opposition politics. And I think CORD now has the momentum to do it. And I think we are taking seriously our opposition roles. But just to make a final point,
listen,
we have 24
this is not a
governments.
PR machine for CORD, okay?
We have 24 governments at the county levels, and these governments also have set themselves up to work.
Okay, back to the Senate. You guys going to start doing some real work?
We are doing real work now. Please don't fall into this propaganda. We're doing real work. We have discussed 3 or so bills. We are working on them. We are waiting for about 15 or so bills from the National Assembly to be brought to the Senate. We have doing tomorrow, Omar is chairing in Mombasa, I'm chairing in Eldoret and others in other places, appeals on the transfer of functions. We have done over 20 motions in the Senate. We have done division of revenue, and we did allocation of revenue bill. So there's a lot of work that's being done by Senate, including now dealing with other issues that checks and balance and oversight for the counties. So we're doing a lot of work. It will be even more work.
One of the most important things is what Murkomen likes to repeat. We need to destigmatize the Senate.
Yeah.
We created an avenue that it is a house for the old.
Yeah.
I can tell you, I can confirm, I probably am more youthful than a couple of the members of the National Assembly.
Yeah.
So is Murkomen.
Yeah.
We have our young brother who's the youngest senator, Sang from Nandi County. We have Ruto senator from Wasingishu.
Yep, Mike Sonko.
We have Sonko. We have Kindiki, professor, who is also within our. So I think the young people are there by right, and they have won very competitive races.
There's an SMS someone asking, comment on the NGO bill.
I think I personally will not support it. I think it's tyrannical. What happens is to hold the NGOs to be a lot more accountable to the public. Because they are public institutions, they are not simply private organizations. They form these anchors within the formations of society that are a very critical element of governance. And therefore, my view is that we need to hold them more accountable to the public, but in terms of their funding, in terms of their objectives, but it will be foolish for us to think we can reverse, the progress of democratic gains and civil society activities.
Yeah, Kip, you want to say something?
I was just saying that I haven't read it, but if it is true that it says 15%, not more than 15% of the resources should not come from outside, someone should show me any rich Kenyan who has put his money on supporting causes. Let me tell you, some counties up to now only survived because they had World Vision, they have Action Aid, they have these other NGOs. The problem is there are few other NGOs that were busy doing the wrong things, basically fixing people that are messing up for all the other. Because if you do that, it means that if you form a foundation here, you have to put all the money from Kenya, if you do everything. Yet, we want to tap resources from other people who are from outside, who are willing to put money in charity, even in this country, whether it's churches, whether it is which organization. I think I agree with Omar, we must make NGOs transparent, accountable to all. There's the Paris Declaration on Aid Effectiveness. Yeah. Those principles of accountability must be used in this country, but we must not go to actually punish the rest of the larger population at the expense of dealing with about 2 or 3 rogue NGOs
elements
in this country.
Good. Duncan Chikuku says, I love the composure and maturity of the 2 young future leaders. Hope the rest are watching the show. And then Rashdi Oudia, he says, I want to be Murkomen's running mate. I'll deliver Luo Nyanza to him.
I didn't say I'm running for president. It's really funny.
See headlines, you see how it starts?
Yes, absolutely. That's how it starts to ripple.
I didn't say that. You know?
Moving forward, guys, I mean, how has it been? You guys have been in office, what, 6 months?
8 months.
8 months, huh?
Yeah.
What's it been like? Because you guys are first timers, right?
Yeah.
You guys are first time. You weren't even MPs before. You weren't anything before. You were a lawyer. You were NGO. What's it been like?
It's tough.
I wasn't in an NGO.
Yeah.
I was in a state agency.
But Jeff,
it's not
really
something. Jeff, trust me. It's a state agency.
But it was something close to NGO.
By His Excellency Mwai Kibaki.
Yeah. Now, it's tough. It's exciting in the sense that you are in the middle of making a difference. Sometimes the frustration that we face in National Assembly was frustration to us. But the greatest challenge is dealing with sometimes misguided expectations. People think senators are governors. People want to ask projects that are supposed to be done by county government to ask a senator. There is also the high level of poverty in our country, so that the dependency rate on elected leaders, whether it is donation of money, school fees, fundraising, and so forth, that actually take away also the time you would have spent to do bills and so forth. You have to balance that. We are young with our families. You have to deal with propaganda. You know, people just go to social media, they start things, they can say anything about you or your wife or your children, you know, those kind of things. You have to deal and you live with it. You must have a thick skin to be able to deal with those issues. So there's a balance. But more so, you have to deal with reality. Before I came to elections, I was a lecturer at the university. We were teaching people about things that others are doing. Now, I am no longer doing theory. I am biased. I'm supposed to take a particular course for the nation, but also for the party. So in essence, you have to continue keeping your eye on the objectives of making a difference in your country, but you must also do it collectively as an institution.
Absolutely.
Without rocking the institution that you're working with.
Good point. You get the last word.
One thing is, I agree with most of what Murkomen has said, because I think but I was realistic in my expectations. I knew the kinds of terrain I was venturing into. There's only one strength I've tried to develop over the last 8 months, is the strength to listen. I think I had a certain strength in terms of my articulation, but it's important now to also now be part and parcel of this harmony of building a new confluence of a country. I only try to exercise a policy, or one of the best definitions of politics that was given by Benazir Bhutto when she contested the fact that politics is a dirty game. He says if it's a game, then our people are not the pawns into it. He said his definition of politics is a romance with the people. You share in their expectations, share in their disappointments, share in their triumphs, share in their tribulation. So I'm trying to be that politician who's part of and parcel of the people, because many of us rose from the people. He beat Total Man.
That's right.
I beat 2 ministers, Kajembe and Malala. It was not by accident. It was because people had a certain faith, and the people give you their confidence. And we're trying to live to that confidence and expectation. Thank you, Jeff Koinange.
See you in 10 years.
Hopefully.
Mr. President, Mr. Deputy, whichever way it is, you guys decide.
No, Jeff, you are setting us against so many people out there. So we are now humble
our party members.
All right, gentlemen, I got an announcement to make, and you guys will be interested in this.
Yeah.
Starting next week, next Wednesday, Jeff Koinange Live is moving to prime time. That's right, starting at 7:45 all the way to news time. Spread the word. Don't say you were not told. Next Wednesday, the show moves to the middle of prime time. Don't worry, guys. I'll invite you back sometime in prime time, all right? Tomorrow night, the man with the same name twice. Go figure who that is. In the meantime, you know you don't want to miss it. I know you. You just said it. Tomorrow night, same time, 10 o'clock. But as of next week, JKL moves to a new time. Let's keep tweeting, folks, at Koinange Jeff, at Senator Murkomen, at Hassan Omar H. I got it, man.
Murkomen.
Oh, at Kip Murkomen.
Yeah, at Kip Murkomen.
Fantastic. Let's keep tweeting all these guys your comments, and you know these folks are the new leadership. Kip is 34, Hassan is 38. They're both younger than I am, so you know this is the future that we're talking about. Thanks for watching, folks. As always, you cannot find guests like these anywhere else, but right here on Kenya's television network, KTA. Good night and good luck.